We are NGEMS, and we are here to save lives and reduce the effect of catastrophes such as these. Last year in the United States alone, almost $8 billion of property damage was caused by fires, and almost 3,000 civilians lost their lives. We are going to reduce both those numbers by increasing the situational awareness that dispatchers and fire personnel have available to them. And we came to this conclusion because as we talked to firefighters from around the nation, a pattern started to form where we found that they didn't have much information at all. All they really had was these pieces right here, the information that came in from the 911 call, the ability to read the smoke as it's leaving the building, and a possible head count of the people that have been estimated to leave the building. And the situation only gets worse when they go inside. Oftentimes, when they go in the door, the smoke is so thick that they can't even see the hand in front of their face. As Mike said to us, operational difficulty and limited site information are the biggest challenges. So we want to deliver information. The timeline matters to us. And we saw that their timeline is incredibly fast. As you can see on the slide, within 10 minutes of the call coming into dispatch, firefighters may be entering that burning building. And so that meant that we had a brief amount of time to deliver a concise amount of information. And so we created NGEMS, an IoT analytics platform that delivers real-time situational information of buildings and people location to dispatch centers and rescue personnel to maximize rescue operations effectiveness. The platform consists of building-installed hardware modules that are able to triangulate the location of our wireless devices and thus triangulate the location of us, as well as a cloud-based visualization software program that then projects this data onto preloaded floor plans. So how does it work? Basically, it has 4 steps. First is data collection. NGEMS is site-aware. We try to tap into all existing safety systems and IoT devices so that we could have the most clear picture of what's actually going on in the building. And secondly, the triangulation of our electronic devices and then us. The second step is that this data is then transmitted over the cloud to our visualization platform. In step 3, it is visualized there and then projected onto maps. Step 4, in a crisis, this is then made available to both dispatchers and fire personnel. And here's an example of our visualization. As you can see, it's rather simple. A tip that we kept getting from firefighters was to keep it simple, and in their words, to idiot-proof it. So we're pretty happy with what we came up with. Okay, so to exemplify NGEMS and the amount of utility it can bring to a situation, I'm going to take you back to an apartment fire that happened in Houston in 2016. So when dispatch got the call, they decided to dispatch 1 truck. And luckily, another fire station was watching the horizon, and they were seeing a plume of smoke, and so they actually ended up dispatching themselves. By the time both trucks arrived at the apartment building, the entire building was engulfed in smoke, and they weren't even able to see the size of the apartments. Here's a better picture of that. So once they started to ingress in the building, they knew they were getting calls in from higher level floors. And so they decided to go in from the 2nd floor. And as they prepped to go in, they had no idea what they were prepping to do was to go into a parking deck that didn't have anybody on it at all. So how could have NGEMS helped? First of all, the correct amount of dispatch to that area wouldn't have been by a happy accident. And secondly, the firefighters would have known, first of all, that that 2nd level was in fact a parking deck and not apartments, and that people weren't even there. So, our market. So to size our market, we looked at commercial properties in the United States, which sits at around 5.6 million of them, which gave us a value of $127 billion. We then whittled that down to New York City and then eventually to retail markets here in New York City, which gave us a target market of $4 billion. And for our pricing model, we decided to copy something that this industry does, which is long-term contracts. So we went with the subscription model at around $250 for a floor. So an average size building is around 12 stories. So over a year, that's a potential $36,000 of revenue. So there's a few things about this market that are interesting. The first is that there's lots of incumbents. But as we started to categorize them, we started to notice that they stay within their categories and don't branch out. NGEMS, by definition of what we're doing, we straddle several of these categories. This is great for us so we could adapt to market changes, but then also so that we can augment these companies' abilities so that we could possibly have them as partners rather than as competition. Secondly, the buyer is very rarely the user. And so this caused us to ask ourselves, what can NGEMS offer during non-crisis situations? And that's where we came to see what NGEMS really is. An anonymized indoor-outdoor locative analytics service. And from this, we started to see that we could offer current occupancy of spaces, foot traffic patterns, and predicted occupancy based on past patterns. And we think this is a great fit for our target market of retail spaces in New York City. So we have a busy year ahead of us. Our first plan of production is planning on going into production in 3 months, and we're planning our first pilot test, followed by a second production run, as well as a paid pilot test, and then we're hoping to go to market within the year. So we have a lot of traction, not only with NYC Media Lab, but also with FutureWorks and also Interventions. And a great step for us, and my team's going to kill me because I, of course, didn't bring it out. We actually got our functional prototype working, and we'd be more than happy to show that to you after the presentations are over. So our team is multinational with varied backgrounds. We have a military research scientist, we have engineers, we have designers, we have those of specialty in finance. And our advisors, of course, have their own accomplishments as well. So what do we want? We're looking for having $600,000 over the next 12 months, but most importantly, we're looking for partners. Partners that have experience in the safety space and also in retail. And we'd be more than happy to talk to you later today. Thank you very much for your time.